scholarship. Once I keep my GPA above a certain amount, I keep that scholarship. And I was an RA, a resident assistant, which paid for housing and meal plan, and my losing that word, my student loan. That's what I did.
Yeah, it was basically the same for me. It was a mixture of like student loan, res life, and scholarships.
For me, it was student loan, academic scholarship. So as Gregory said, just keep your GPA above a certain level and you'll continue to get that scholarship each year. And the third one was actually the scholarship that I got from FIT, but it was because I was a part of Aviation Club of Jamaica. I got $10,000. So just because I was a member.
Okay, let's talk about that a little bit, because I think the financial part for any student is the hardest part about university. I know it was for me. I know it was for my husband. I know it was for my own children. I know it, and since I work with students every day, I know it is for almost every student. University is very expensive. Studying overseas makes it even more expensive because now you've got the currency conversion. Know that as a member of the Jamaica Flight Club, you are guaranteed a $10,000 scholarship. Florida Tech also offers academic merit scholarships, but you have to choose between the two. So what obviously you're going to do is choose whichever one is largest. If your academic merit scholarship is larger, choose that. If you normally would not get an academic merit scholarship, then this $10,000 Jamaica Flight Club scholarship is going to save you. And that's $10,000 every year of your bachelor program till you graduate. If you choose to get the academic merit scholarship, that money is guaranteed every year until you graduate with your bachelor's degree. As the three young men have said, as long as you maintain a certain GPA. GPA stands for grade point average. And you have to maintain a 2.6 or higher on a 4.0 scale. That is the equivalent of 1s and 2s in the Caribbean grading system, or the equivalent of A's and B's in any other grading system. So as long as you get A's and B's, or the equivalent of 1s and 2s throughout your career at Florida Tech, you will keep your scholarship. This is also key. You don't have to decide at the time of application which scholarship you're going to take. You wait until you're admitted and then wait and see what Florida Tech offers you financially. If they offer you more than $10,000, obviously that's the scholarship to take. If they offer you less than $10,000, obviously you want to use your Jamaica Flight Club scholarship. So you can wait until that point to decide. What you can't do is stack the two together. It's one or the other. And student loans, let's talk a little bit about that. For most of you, you're going to get your student loan there in Jamaica. In order to get a loan in the United States, you have to have a U.S. cosigner. Unless you have a family member or friend who really loves you and really trusts you to pay them back, it would be very difficult to find a U.S. cosigner. So most of you will get your loans there in Jamaica. Student loans are different than like mortgages or other loans you would get from a bank, in that most student loans, they allow you to pay it back over a longer period of time, and oftentimes the interest rate is lower. And many student loans will give you 6 months after you graduate to find a job before they make you start paying it back. They don't make you start paying it back the minute you graduate. Many student loans give you about, at the most, 6 months so that you can find a job before you have to start paying back the loan. Next question, Samuel.
All right, so the next question is...
Wait, can I back up?
Sure, go ahead.
Kimon and Chad used an acronym that I'm not sure a high school student would be familiar with, and that is RA, or Res Life. Let's talk about that. Even if you don't come to Florida Tech for university, you need to know that RA stands for Resident Advisor. At any U.S. university campus, That is the highest paying campus job on all campuses for an undergraduate student. What a resident advisor is means that you work for the university and you act like a big brother or big sister in the residence halls for your floor or your hall. So when the younger students have questions or they need help or they need reassurance, you are the mentor. You are the person who helps them. At the same time, you're also the one who reinforces the rules of the university. So if somebody breaks a rule, you're also the one who has to deal with that. At every university, the RA is paid differently, but again, it's always the highest paying job on the campus for a student. When I was in college, which was 30 years ago, I got a discount on my living costs, and then I got paid $65 a month, which back then was a lot of money. Florida Tech, here and now, the way they pay their RAs or their resident advisors is they get free room and free board. That saves you $15,000 a year. So basically you're getting a $15,000 discount, or you're earning $15,000 a year for doing that job. I don't know if Chad and Kimon would agree with me, but when I looked at the jobs that my friends had at university versus being an RA, I thought being an RA was a pretty easy job. I like other students. I like being social. So for me, going up and down the hall every day and visiting with the other people who lived on my hall, having to enforce rules now and then, planning fun activities for my hall was something I really enjoyed. So I didn't find it to be hard work. Yes, when someone breaks a rule, it's a little bit difficult to have that confrontation, but as an adult, you have to do that a lot, so it's good practice. Kimon and Chad, what do you think about that? Hello? Did I lose my internet? Am I frozen?
No, you're still here.
Oh, okay, okay. I don't know if they would
Hello?
agree, but I thought it was a great job to have.
Oh, I'm sorry, I muted it by
Hello?
accident.
Can you hear? So what we should also know, a lot of schools also in America, they keep their RAs for about a year based on what we heard when we went to conventions, other schools. I spoke to other RAs from other schools. They say they keep the RAs about a year, but FIT they have a good retention rate, which if you're doing a good job, you can have that position for up to as long.
It is a position you have to reapply for every year, but if you do a good job, you're automatically rehired.
Yep.
But at all universities, you have to reapply for that every year. It's very competitive, by the way, because it pays so well.
Yep.
All right, next question, Samuel.
All right, so Catherine Lee, she was asking, are flight training fees included in scholarships?
No, flight training is considered a hobby because, and here's why, you don't have to have a pilot's license in order to be employed. You do, however, have to have a degree. So that's why it's considered a hobby. So when you get your scholarship, it is deducted from the tuition portion of the bill. That's a good question.
All right, so that one was for Catherine Lee. But Catherine, if you have any more follow-up questions, feel free to ask. The next question is from Leonardo Parkinson's. What are some of the extracurricular activities, clubs or societies at university? And is it mandatory for you to be a part of them?
Sweetheart, it's not mandatory to be a part of any clubs or activities, but at all U.S. universities, there are a multitude of clubs and activities. There's something for everybody, from political organizations to cooking clubs to anime to flight organizations to Quidditch. There's intramural sports. There's something for everybody. Florida Tech has more than 100 different clubs and activities, and you're going to find that at every U.S. institution. And even better, if your university does not have a club or organization for something you like to do, like let's say you like doing something that's relatively unique, there's always money in the Office of Student Life for you to start a club or organization. And I'll give two examples of that. On most college campuses, if not all, you have Quidditch teams. But think, until J.K. Rowling wrote the Harry Potter books, there was no such thing as Quidditch. So that means that when she published her books, all these kids who loved her books went off to university and wanted to play Quidditch. Quidditch teams didn't exist. So the universities gave these students money to start Quidditch clubs. And I can give a specific example at Florida Tech. I had a student who worked for me, gosh, it's probably been 7 or 8 years now. And she was an Indian citizen who was from Dubai. And she came to Florida Tech, and her passion was street dancing or hip hop dancing. And we didn't have a hip hop / street dancing club. She started one. And the last time I checked, which was last April, our hip hop or street dance club had over 50 members in it. And she graduated probably 6 or 7 years ago now. And she started that club when she worked for me. And it's still going strong. And the university gave her money to start that club at university. So that was an excellent question. Whoever asked that, that's a really good question.
That was Leonardo Parkinson.
Leonardo, great question.
All right, so Ramon Lumley, or Ramon, yeah, Lumley says, I'm interested in doing a bachelor's in aerospace engineering with a flight option if possible. I'm currently doing my second year in my bachelor's in mechanical engineering at the University of Technology. But I'm assuming this is regarding transferring credits.
Yes.
So, oh, here he is. Yeah, go ahead, Raman. Go ahead.
Yes, so I have both CSEC and CAPE and doing my second year in mechanical engineering at University of Technology, Jamaica. And yes, I'm interested in transferring credits.
Okay. Let me ask you this, Ramon. Is the University of Technology there in Jamaica, is it ABET accredited? Is your engineering program ABET accredited?
I'm not sure.
All right, you need to find that out. And the way you find that out is simply ask your department, okay? In order for courses to transfer, and the reason I'm saying this is when you say University of Technology, in some countries, that would be a vocational technical program. In other countries, that's going to be truly a university program. In order for courses to transfer, they have to be a real university program, not vocational technical. And because you're studying engineering, it needs to be ABET accredited. And that is the International Accrediting Association for all engineering degrees, okay? And that's why that needs to happen. For sure, anything that you got a 1, 2, or 3 in CAPE, that's going to transfer. And Kimon mentioned earlier that he was able to get a double major when he was studying because so much credit transferred from his CAPEs. If you got 1s, 2s, and 3s in CAPEs, that's going to be your situation too. And if some of your University of Technology courses transfer, that will even more be your situation. So in that case, you will probably be able to take flight lessons while you're getting your engineering degree. If I were talking to a student who is coming right out of high school with absolutely no transfer credit, I would say it probably wouldn't be possible if you wanted to finish your degree on time. And here's why. In most places around the world, engineering degrees take 5 years to complete. At Florida Tech, we do them in 4 years. So that tells you how rigorous an engineering program at Florida Tech is. It is so rigorous, squeezing 5 years of work into 4 years, that for most engineering students, they don't have the time to do something as intensive as flight. Because you know with flight, there's a lot of reading and a lot of studying, and it takes a lot of time. So I think the fact that you come with at least your CAPE transferring and maybe some of your University of Technology courses transferring, that you would have time to do both. Mm-hmm. And by the way, let me help you with that also. At most universities, You will not find out what is transferring until after you've been admitted. Most universities will not do a transfer credit evaluation until you have applied to the university and then been admitted, simply because those evaluations are very time intensive. So for obvious reasons, universities wait and only do them for students who've been admitted.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, but when you go back, when you're back in class next week, do contact your department at the University of Technology and ask if they're ABET accredited, okay?
Okay.
All right, so Nicola Bryan, she's asking, do you offer flight training only?
Yes, Michaela, I think you and I have met before. Your name is very familiar. Yes, Michaela, you can do flight training only. You would not be on a student visa. You would be on what's called an M1 visa, M as in Mary, and those are only good for 1 year. So that means you would have 1 year to go from 0 flight hours to your CPL. But let me caution you on that. Greg mentioned something when he very first started talking, and it's really important. He mentioned that what if you were grounded? What if you didn't pass the flight physical and you were grounded? As a pilot, you now no longer have a way to make any money. And I hate to tell you, but as you age, you are not going to pass the flight physical more than once, and you are going to be grounded, and you're going to have no way to earn a living. In my generation, when I was your age, most commercial pilots did not have college degrees. They didn't need them. They could either go through the military or pay for their flight lessons and simply get their CPLs and earn their flight hours and then go work for a major carrier. That is no longer the case. Most major carriers, no matter what country you're from, not all, but most, require their pilots to have a bachelor degree and their CPL, along with their type ratings and instrument ratings and all of that. And the reason for that is you will be grounded and you will still need to earn a living. If you have a university degree, the airline can still keep you employed. If you don't have any other skills other than flying, they can't keep you employed and you can't earn a paycheck. So if you don't have your university degree yet and you can't afford to do both, put aside the flight and get your university degree first, because that way you can earn a living. And not only can you earn a living, but you will be able to earn enough money that you can then take your flight lessons. So your dream of being a commercial pilot is not dead, it's just delayed. If you get your CPL first, you're unemployable in most airlines. You can do crop dusting. You could probably, fly a little private jet for a company. You could fly cargo, perhaps, but you could not work for a major carrier without that degree. And you would have spent a lot of money getting your CPL and then not be able to earn enough money very quickly to go back and get a degree. Greg, Chad, and Kimon, would you agree with that?
Yes, I do. I definitely do.
Yes. Flight is very fragile. So I recommend getting a degree, definitely.
That's the only way most major carriers will even employ you. So unfortunately, I do see students who come to Florida to FIT Aviation. And we have another aviation program in town called Melbourne, I believe it's called Melbourne Flight. Either way, if you just get your CPL, you're not employable. And you've spent a lot of money and now have a lot of debt without being able to get a good paying job.
All right. Next question is, are athletic scholarships offered?
They are. It depends on your sport. May I ask this student what his or her sport is?
Soccer.
Soccer, yes. We do have soccer scholarships. We have both a men's soccer team and a women's soccer team. Florida Tech's teams are NCAA Division II. I have to be very honest. If you are not an elite athlete, the definition of elite would be that you would play for your national team if your country has one, or that you're good enough that you would try out for your country's Olympic team. If you're not that good, you are not good enough to get an athletic scholarship. Playing high school soccer is not good enough. You honestly, in any sport, need to be good enough to be in the Olympics, or at least try out for the Olympics, or play for your national team, or in the instance of individual sports like running, tennis, golf, you need to be nationally ranked. If you're not that good, you will not get an athletic scholarship. And may I also add that soccer is the world's most popular sport. It's the most popular sport in every country. So at university campuses, the soccer team is the hardest team to make because you've got more competition.
All right,
I
sounds
hope I
good.
didn't discourage you, but I really do believe in being extremely honest and frank so that you're not misled.
It's true.
Okay. Seeing another question here from Catherine. Is it just required for first-year students to live on campus? And how have housing arrangements changed since COVID?
Excellent question, Catherine. Excellent. And by the way, Catherine, I recognize your name too. I know we've met. All right. Most universities do have a residency requirement for at least 1 year. At Florida Tech and many universities, our residency requirement is 2 years. That means you must live on campus your first 2 years of university or until the age of 21, whichever comes first. For most students, the 2 years comes first. When you live on a university campus, I don't care which campus it is, the university also requires you to have a meal plan. So you've got to have a meal plan and live on campus. At Florida Tech, after your first 2 years, if you want to move off campus, you are more than welcome to. If you want to continue living on campus, you are more than welcome to. The choice is yours. We do have enough housing that we house even graduate students, so that's not a worry. A lot of times I get the question, is it cheaper to live on campus or off? And Catherine, to be honest, that depends on your lifestyle. The nice thing about living on campus is the place where you live and all of your utilities, electricity, water, internet, all of that is covered as part of the cost of living on campus. If you live off campus, you've got to pay for that. And you have first and last month's security deposits in rent, in electricity, in water, in cable, in internet, all of that. And that can be very expensive. The key to saving money if you're going to move off campus is to get a lot of roommates. And that's why I say it depends on your lifestyle. If you want to live by yourself in an apartment, it's cheaper for you to live on campus. If you want to have roommates and move off campus and share expenses, it might be easier for you to live off campus. Oftentimes it is. So it really depends on people's lifestyles. Now, how has living changed since COVID? At most college campuses, you have a variety of campus housing. At Florida Tech, we have 3 different kinds. We have apartment style living in which 4 people of the same gender share an on-campus apartment. Each student has his or her own bedroom. It's small, but it is your own. And then you share a kitchen, a living room, and 2 bathrooms. The word apartment, when you're 18 years old, sounds very sexy. I know it does. But do know that that can be a little more expensive than your other option, which I'll talk about in a minute. The beautiful thing about living in a campus apartment is you do have your own room, so you can shut and lock your door and have a little bit of privacy when you need it. The downside of an apartment on campus is it is a little bit more expensive, but you have to clean your own bathrooms. And you have to supply your own bath tissue, like toilet paper, Kleenex, that kind of thing. And I promise you that when you are living with 4 different people, your definition of clean is going to be different. And that always requires some confrontation and working things out, which is part of growing up. The other kind of housing is called traditional style housing, and that is where 2 people of the same gender live in one room together. The room is much bigger than a single. At Florida Tech, the rooms are extra big. They were built for 3 people, but we only put 2 in them. The 2 people each have their own furniture. You have your own bed, your own desk, your own chair, your own closet, but you share a microwave and a refrigerator, and each room does have a microwave and a refrigerator. Rather than have your own bathroom in your room, you have a large bathroom that all the young ladies or all the young men on the hall share. That sounds scary, particularly when you're modest and coming out of high school, but it's not. The toilets are private, the showers are private. You are not doing your private business in front of other people. The beautiful thing about shared bathrooms is that you don't have to clean them. The university sanitizes and cleans them daily, 6 days a week, and provides the toilet paper, the paper towels, the tissue, that kind of thing. You do supply your own shampoo and soap. You have a little shower caddy. One is not better than the other. Traditional style living is slightly less expensive than apartment style living. Personally, I chose traditional style living all 4 years of my undergraduate. A, it was less expensive, but B, I really, really like clean bathrooms. I also liked the idea of not having to wait to use a bathroom. When you have those large bathrooms, seldom, if ever, will you have to wait for a toilet, a shower, or a sink, because there's enough of them, and university students have different schedules. When you have an apartment and 4 people are sharing 2 bathrooms, when one person's in that bathroom, it's off limits to you. You have to wait your turn. So oftentimes roommates have to work out schedules based on their classes. So, you know, like most things in life, there's good things and bad things about both situations. The third kind of living on campus is by far the most expensive. We don't allow freshmen or first-year students to do it. You have to be an older student. We do have single rooms that have their own bathroom. I don't recommend that. It's lonely. Having roommates gives you built-in people to do things with. And when you live by yourself, it can be lonely sometimes. I don't recommend it in university. University is the only time in your life you're going to be living with other students your own age without any adult supervision, which makes it sound like you're going to do naughty things. You're not. But it's just a really special time in life to be living with your friends and going through that transition from childhood to adulthood together. It's just really, really fun. I describe living in a campus housing as a nightly slumber party with a lot of homework. That's the way I would describe it. I'll let Greg and Kimon and Chad chime in on that. I loved living on campus. I thought it was a lot of fun. And I loved being an RA.
For me, I did apartment style. One reason is because a lot of my friends from JC came to college in me. So we all wanted to live together. My second year I was an RA, and they placed me in Columbia Village, which is an apartment style. And I lived with those guys again. And now I'm living off campus. It's me, Chad, Kimon, and one other friend, all Jamaicans living together. All of us fly, all of us are able to help each other with aviation. So yeah, that's why we live together.
All right,
Yeah.
are you saving money by living off, well, as an RA, that was your biggest savings. But now that you're off campus, are you saving money, or does it cost you more money?
I am
Or is
actually
it about the same?
I am actually saving money by living off campus.
Living off campus?
Yeah, living off campus.
Okay, about how much money a month? Because you have to supply your own food.
Yeah.
All right, when you put in all of your expenses, your rent, your utilities, your food, about how much are you saving a month?
So for everything, food, to travel to campus, and rent and utilities, it comes to about $600 a month, which in comparison with living on campus, it would be like $900. So about $300. And it does go a long way. The $300 per month does go a long way.
Okay, Greg, what about, it sure does go a long way. What about if you were in traditional housing? Because that's about $1,000 cheaper a semester. So if you had traditional kind of rooms, would it be as much of a savings?
It would be, but the savings wouldn't be as much. So it would probably be like $100 to $150 a month.
Okay.
But living with guys who do fly as well. Chad is an instructor. Chad helps me a lot. All the rest of the guys I live with are way ahead of me in flight, so they do help me. So it does benefit me for the most part.
Okay. All right. But again, the first 2 years, you do have to live on campus unless you're 21 years old or older.
Yeah.
And that's pretty common at most university campuses, by the way.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, wait, I didn't, Catherine, I'm sorry. There's one part of your question I forgot to answer. You asked about coronavirus. What we're doing right now to keep everybody safe is every student lives in his or her own room without roommates, unless they really request a roommate. For instance, siblings might want to live together, or best friends. In that case, we are allowing them to live together, but otherwise everybody's getting their own room. They're not getting their own apartment, but you have to realize in apartments, everybody has their own room anyway. So.
Okay, thank you.
And it's not costing any extra. It's just how we're keeping everybody safe.
Okay.
Are classes still being held on campus, Stacy?
They are, Samuel. We started back face-to-face classes on time. On August 8th is when the new students arrived, and classes started a week later, which was the 15th. Let me go into, obviously we're following CDC guidelines. So everybody wears masks when they're in a building on campus, unless they're in their very own room or their very own office.
Okay.
Like if I go to the restroom, if I come out to talk to Greg, I'm wearing a mask. Greg is my student assistant, by the way, so he works with me every day. So I'm wearing a mask. When he comes into my office, he wears a mask. Classrooms, they have made the classes much smaller so that the desks can be socially distanced, and then between classes the whole room is sanitized. The dining halls, it's no longer buffet eating. Many of you have been to campus and have eaten in the dining hall. That buffet no longer exists. Now you choose your food and they put it in a box and hand it to you so that the food is not getting contaminated. So we're following all the CDC guidelines.
Okay.
Until this week, hardly anybody got sick. In fact, 2 weeks ago, there were no corona cases on campus. Until this week, it had been 1, 2 cases a week between faculty, staff, or students.
Okay.
I can tell students are getting careless because we've been so successful with keeping everybody healthy. I can tell this week students got careless and they started hanging out without being so careful, because this week the president reports how many cases there are every Friday. This week there are 10 students who came down with coronavirus and 3 faculty members. Or was it between faculty and staff? I think there were 6 employees and 10 students. I'm here to tell you the employees are not being careless because they're older and they have to be more careful, and they have to work so they can't get sick. I think students are maybe socializing and not following CDC guidelines and then bringing the germs to campus, and the adults are getting the germs. That's my guess. In Melbourne, we're not a big metropolis, so the coronavirus numbers that you see on the news in like Miami or Tampa or Orlando, that's not Melbourne. We're a smaller city, and everybody that I have seen in grocery stores, in the pharmacy, in Walmart, for the most part, people have been wearing masks and obeying social distancing. People my age, we're still doing takeout. A lot of us are not going to restaurants yet. We're doing takeout, or if we're going to a restaurant, we're sitting outside. We just went into stage 3 2 weeks ago. And I think that's part of why the campus coronavirus has increased this week, is I think when we went to stage 3 in the state of Florida, I think people let the guard down a little bit, particularly younger people, because that's part of being young. You're 10 feet tall and bulletproof. So I think if students go back to being very careful, I think those cases will jump right back down. It's been amazing how safe we've been in the 8 weeks of class, 9 weeks of campus attendance. I think, Greg, Chad, what do you all think? I've been amazed. I've been amazed at how safe the campus has been.
Yeah, it's been really safe, even as it relates to the flight line. We have a new procedure there also. So when a student comes, they'll message their instructor, and then they'll get their temperature checks, and then they'll sanitize their hands and whatever. And then each instructor is responsible to sanitize the aircraft before and after flight. So and then we have designated areas where we meet. Each instructor have designated area where they meet their individual students. So and we have a traffic flow for even walking around. So it's been really safe.
That's the entire campus. There's traffic flow. And every single person, student, faculty, staff, we have to fill out a little, on our phones, there's an app where we have to fill it out to say, you know, do we have a temperature? Do we have a sore throat? Have we had a headache? Any symptoms? Or if we feel healthy? And we have to do that every single day. There's temperature readers all over campus. There's hand sanitizer all over campus. We have kept everybody very healthy. In contrast, and I'll use the large state universities in every state as an example. The first 2 weeks of class, the students came, they were partying like crazy. Within 2 weeks, most of the big state universities closed and sent everybody home because kids weren't careful. My daughter works at NC State. They closed after 2 weeks. There were so many, they had over 20 COVID, actually they had over 26 coronavirus clusters in 2 weeks. The small campuses where you have students who are really serious about their education and you don't have as much partying and you don't have a strong Greek life system, it's made all the difference in the world.
Okay, cool. All right, well, that's good. Thank you for that info, Stacy. Moving on to the next question. Or before I go to the next question, some information was shared to me regarding the ABET accredited program, and it seems that the University of Technology is accredited based on some information on their website. So
it is accredited?
It is ABET accredited. I'll share the link with you shortly.
Okay, and honestly, that's not my decision, Samuel. I will share it with the registrar because they're the ones who award transfer credit.
Okay.
If it is ABET accredited, that means the classes, Ramon, that you are taking there, if you get an A, B, or C in the classes and they match up with the same syllabi or syllabus as the classes at Florida Tech, and you get an A, B, or C, those credits will transfer. If you get a D or an F in those classes, they will not transfer. Or if the syllabus between the classes don't match up, even though you get an A, B, or C, then they won't transfer. And that does vary from university to university. The one thing I can tell you for sure is never anywhere in the world, any university does 100% of credit from one university, 100% transfer to another. That never happens. Just know that going in.
All right, thank you. The next question, what's the tuition per year for a bachelor's degree in aeronautical science?
Okay, I'm gonna help you students with this. When you're talking to university, feel free to ask what the tuition is. But even better, ask for total cost of your program for 1 year. Because if you only say, tell me the tuition, that's all the university is gonna tell you. And the tuition is only about 2/3 of the cost. There's still a huge chunk of living expenses. So ask total costs for 1 year. To answer your question, for the students who want something in the College of Aeronautics without flight, your tuition is $39,000 a year. Actually like $39,040. Total costs, though, for your tuition, your room, your board, your U.S. health insurance, your books, your pocket money, your visa, the airplane flights to get to from Jamaica to Florida and back, incidentals like activities fees if you want to join clubs, you're looking at about $54,000 per year total cost. If you add the flight option to that, now we're looking at $76,000 per year for your first 2 years, because you'll have your CPL by the end of your second year, and then your flight costs will drastically reduce, particularly if you become a CFI. Is that a hard, fast price? The tuition is. But the living expenses and the books and the flights that you take to and from Jamaica, that has some wiggle room because everybody has different lifestyles and different ways to buy books. But if you have that much money, you've got enough money for that year. This is really important. Remember, you're going to get a scholarship. So you would subtract that scholarship from that price. So hardly anyone at Florida Tech pays full price. Almost everybody gets some kind of scholarship. Also, you need to know that, you know, different people have different lifestyles. So if you're a more frugal person, you're not going to spend that much. If you are very much a big spender, you're going to spend a little more. So it varies on your individual personality too.
Okay, cool. I think somebody else had a question. They were chiming in. They had unmuted it. Their mic. Somebody had a question. If not, we will move on to
I have a question.
Rajay's question. Raman, you had a question?
Yeah, I have a next question, like a follow up to the
Go ahead.
answer. So I wanted to ask, what are the requirements for transfer scholarships? Like, what?
You need to have at least a 2.8 GPA on a 4.0 scale.
Okay.
If you have a 2.8 or higher, you're going to get some scholarship money.
Okay.
And remember, because you all are in the Jamaica Flight Club, Samuel writes a letter for you, and you're automatically, you know you're going to get at least $10,000. You know that out the gate.
All right.
Okay. By the way,
Mm-hmm.
may I say something about money? And I'm going to use Ramon as an example. If university is outside your family's budget, one way to make it much more affordable is do what Ramon is doing. Do your CAPE and go to either UE or University of Technology there in Kingston and get your AA degrees. That saves you so much money. It's so much cheaper to do 2 years of your higher education locally at home than it is to do it at a 4-year university abroad. So if I had to worry about budget, those would be 2 things that I would do if I were from the Caribbean. Ramon, you've attacked this so intelligently. You really have, as far as budget is concerned.
And Rajay was also asking about getting the athletics scholarship. What are the requirements? You know, what do they do?
That varies from coach to coach. The first thing you need to do is go to the NCAA website and register with the NCAA. No coach is going to talk to you until you do that. The NCAA stands for National Collegiate Athletic Association. That is the governing body of university, college and university sports in the United States. And in order to protect the coach, the athletic program, and the recruited player, the rules for recruitment are extremely strict, and everybody must follow them. Once you've registered with the NCAA, then you can go to the Florida Tech website, go to the athletic page, find your sport, click on it, and every coach and their contact information is listed. Contact the coach. Get your coach involved with the coach. It's going to be the 3 of you. It's going to be Florida Tech's coach, you, and your coach there in Kingston. If the coach does not respond to you, and you've tried 3 or 4 times to reach him or her, that means he or she is not interested.
Okay. Was there somebody, I think it's ZTE Blade, I'm not sure who that is, but you seem to have a question.
Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
My question was that what if you completed majority of your flight training, like your single engine, multi-engine, and commercial pilot license? Can you just do the CFI alone at FIT, or you have to?
No,
You
you
can
can.
do it.
Yeah, you're going to bring your logbook from Jamaica to Florida to FIT Aviation, and
Oh.
you're going to pick up closely, maybe not exactly, but pretty closely to where you left off in Jamaica. I'm going to let Greg and Chad and Kimon speak to that because they're the pilots and I am not.
If you got your license,
Okay. Yeah.
if you got your license in Jamaica,
Yes.
because FIT runs off of FAA, you would have to switch your license over to the FAA. So that's just doing an exam, going over certain rules that are different between Jamaica and America. When you transfer your license, you can just pick up wherever you left off, or just
No.
before that, and start your training for your CFI here.
Yeah, I understand, but what I was planning to do was to attend one of Florida's flight school, like Two Fly or Epic, and do it so I don't have to go over no changes or any of that.
Well, that's an option as well. If you do that, you can come to FIT and do your CFI here as well.
Okay, that was what I was finding about. Cause many flight school, they say that they don't offer the CFI course to international students.
Well, you can do it here for sure, 100%. That's where Chad did his.
All right, something to think
Okay,
about.
yeah.
That is going to be a really good way to save money on your flying lessons. However, go back to the number of flight hours required to get hired by an airline. If you get your CPL as part of a degree program, you're cutting off 600 required flight hours. That's a significant savings.
Okay.
So when you're calculating how much money you're going to save between flying, getting your licenses at a different flight school, calculate how much those 600 hours are going to cost you. And, you know, do the comparison and then definitely choose the route that is cheaper for sure.
Yeah, okay. All right, thanks.
You're welcome.
All right, great.
Yeah.
Gabriel was asking what's the average housing cost? Did we cover that earlier? But if not, her question is what's the average housing?
The average cost, depending on what you want, remember, as a first-year student, we're not going to let you live alone, and that's the most expensive. They are going to run from about $3,000 a semester to about $4,000 a semester between traditional living and apartment style living. And then your meal plan is going to run you about just under $3,000 a semester.
Okay.
So you're looking for total living costs, room and board, between for your first year, $5,000 to $6,000 a semester. After your first year, if you wanted to live alone, I would say from $5,000 to $7,000, $7,500 a semester.
Okay, cool. Cool.
And by meal plans, you have 2 choices as a freshman. If you get that far, Greg and Chad and Kimon and I'll talk to you. The 2 meal plans for freshmen cost the same amount of money, but one is a better value than the other. Because most freshmen do not eat 3 meals a day on campus. Most teenagers and young adults do not like to get up early. They like to sleep in. Therefore, you're going to miss breakfast quite often. Why pay for it, right, if you're not going to eat it?
Yeah.
So talk to us and we'll guide you to the best value for a meal plan.
Okay, makes sense. Makes sense.
If you were my age, you get up early and you'd eat breakfast and that'd be one thing. But at your age, young people like their sleep. So, and college students are like vampires. They stay up all night and then sleep during the day. So, you need to think about how many meals you'll actually eat, and you need to approach the meal plans intelligently.
Okay, makes sense. Nikayla was asking, this is a question for Chad and Greg and Kimon. The question is, what are the various organizations you guys got a loan from to finance your studies? I think Chad said Sally Mae, but if there's any others, someone else chime in.
I did mine from Salome also.
Okay.
So, yeah. And I think Greg did his own from Salome also.
I did.
Okay, so Sally Mae for everyone.
Yeah.
That's pretty common even for students in the United States. Sally Mae is the most common educational loan lender for students who want to study in the US, whether you're a US citizen or international student. That's pretty common.
Gotcha.
They give the best
Catherine,
rates. They give the best rates
They do.
and repayment plan.
Oh, okay. Catherine was asking, what is the average SAT score? And just be reminded, Catherine, that as a Jamaican, you don't need to do it
Don't
unless you're a dual citizen. But if not, then you don't have to do it. But to answer the question, Stacy, what is the average SAT score?
Okay, your minimum SAT for if you are a US citizen is going to be 1,000. The average for an enrolled Florida Tech student is from 1170 to 1370. That's the average. Of course,
Okay,
some are
thank
even
you.
higher. No one is lower than 1,000.
Okay, got it. Got that, Catherine?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Hold on. All right, so
Oh, can I
somebody
say
else.
one more thing, Samuel?
Sure, absolutely.
Catherine, on the SAT or ACT, because Florida Tech is a STEM university, most of our degrees are based on math and science. The math score matters more than the English/reading score. On
Okay.
math, you need to have a minimum of 590 on the math, if you're a US citizen.
Okay, and yes, I am.
Oh, honey, I'm sorry. Hey, but you know what? Here's the benefit. You have to take the test, but here's the benefit. As a US citizen, the merit scholarships are higher, and make sure you complete the FAFSA. It opened on October 1. You will be eligible for also need-based aid.
Okay, yeah.
And
that's
an
good.
international student is not eligible for that. So even though you have to take the test, chances are you're going to get a much bigger scholarship.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Another question that somebody had was, if an individual has an FAA commercial and his instrument rated as well and did the flight training on an M1 visa, how does that work with the F1 visa that the school offers?
Excellent question. An M1 is good for 1 calendar year. When your year is up, you leave and go back to Jamaica. If you're going to come back and do an academic program, once you're admitted, I would guide you through the paperwork you have to do to get a document called an I-20. An I-20 is what you need to take to the US Embassy there in Kingston to your visa interview. If you pass the interview, then you're going to get an F1 visa, which right now for a bachelor degree is 5 years, and they will put it in your passport, and that allows you to study to get a bachelor degree.
Okay,
But you
great.
do have to return to your home in Jamaica when your M1 is up.
Is
You
up,
cannot
yeah.
stay in the US and transfer to an F1. You have to leave and go home.
Okay, sounds good. So Stacy, there is a Lawrence Bailey online. He's or was a senior flight instructor at FIT. I think he even trained Chad.
I know Lawrence.
You know Lawrence,
I
yeah.
do
So
know Lawrence. I do.
he's actually here, and I wanted
Hi,
him to
Lawrence.
chime in for a sec.
He may not remember me, but I remember Lawrence. I remember him from being out at FIT Aviation.
Yes. So he also did his.
Handsome man, by the way. Very handsome man.
I'm hoping he's enjoying those compliments. But he moved on from FIT, but nevertheless has some key information that I believe he can share, as well as answer some
Good.
questions. Sorry, for those who are particularly interested in the flying aspect at FIT. So,
Wonderful.
Lawrence, if you're here.
Yeah, I'm here. Greetings, guys. I'm actually still not still, but I actually just came back to FIT. Probably, I don't know, Chad saw me probably a month ago. So I'm back at FIT now as a part-time check airman and helping out with some standardization. So I'm back there, and I never really left, at least not for a long period, but I'm still there. The one thing that I did see was I think somebody had a question for if they had done flight training. I don't remember exactly what the question was, but what I can say is if you did flight training in Jamaica, even if you had an ATP in Jamaica, the FAA will only transfer an overseas, any certificate, commercial, ATP, whatever it is, they'll only transfer and give you credit for a private pilot certificate. So even if you had 10,000 hours flying for Air Jamaica, you came here and wanted to get an FAA certificate, you could only get an FAA private pilot certificate. So that's something to think about, even starting your training in Jamaica. Now, all the training experience that you got in Jamaica will still count towards your FAA certificate. So if you have all the cross-country requirements, all the total time requirements, you can take the check ride. So not to deter anybody from doing training in Jamaica, if you have, I'd say the important thing is pay attention to whatever the requirements are for the FAA, and then try to complete those requirements in Jamaica while you're completing your FAA training. But it's quite honestly, probably if you're planning on doing FAA, it's probably quite easier to just do everything in the States, either FIT or elsewhere, but it's probably smarter just to do everything else in the States. At least consistency, price, weather, that'd be my advice.
Yeah, okay. And what about if someone does do training in Jamaica? What is the conversion process like in the States?
I think one of the guys responded. It's typically you have to do the FAA written. You get together with a DPE. They'll what they're going to do is they're going to issue an FAA private pilot certificate based on a foreign certificate. So you're going to have the letter that gives, once you've verified all your they'll contact the JCA, make sure your logbook and all your times and your medical are all actual valid certificates, because you do have some countries, Jamaica is not an issue, but you do have some countries where people will come and show up with fake certificates. So you do go through a validation process with the JCA, in contact with the FAA, and then you get in contact with a DPE, which is a designated pilot examiner, and then they will then issue a FAA private pilot certificate based on your foreign certificate, be it Jamaica, Eastern Caribbean, wherever you got your training done. So, and then you can continue training from there. Like I said, typically people would do it Part 61, so not your FIT collegiate program. You do your flight training Part 61. Hey, I already have an instrument rating. Get me an instrument as quickly as possible.
Okay.
If Chad's a double I, Chad would look at all your stuff you've done. Hey, we need to do 3 cross countries. You need 10 hours in an airplane. Let's take a check ride. So if you've done some things before, you don't have to do everything towards a certificate. The experience you got in Jamaica would still count.
Okay, cool. Well, it's good to know that the process is still what it was as I know it, because especially with the private pilot's license, when I was converting mine, it was an easy process. I made a phone call, emails,
there's not much more to it.
Yeah, and then I got the license in the mail. But then
Right.
I know there's a little bit more to it when you start to talk about converting the instrument and the commercial.
You can't. So that's what I wanted to be clear. So I think somebody previously said, hey, that was fine. The FAA will not convert anything past a private. You could have 10,000 hours at Emirates, and it doesn't matter how much flight time you have. The FAA will only give you credit for a private pilot certificate. The rest of it you have to do with
written and stuff.
With written,
maybe a few hours,
and taking a check ride. Right. It's not going to be a whole lot of hours. If you can show in your logbook, I have all the recency experience, all the experience requirements for the certificate. You get signed off by a CFI. You take a check ride. Maybe it's 5, maybe it's 10, maybe it's 20 hours, but it's not a direct conversion.
Okay, cool. Well, that pretty much answers it. But yeah, for everyone who's listening and interested in flying at FIT, Lawrence is a good person to speak to, as well as Chad. I know Chad is under Lawrence's wing per se, so they're both good persons to speak with. And then Kimon will be another one that's coming right behind. So these are good persons to have in your network for those who are interested. But thanks for clarifying, Lawrence.
Yeah, no worries.
And Stacy, Catherine has another question for you regarding the SATs.
Okay.
She's doing her SAT exam in December, so she will be applying after she receives her grades. She wants to know, would she be able to send in her FAFSA form before sending in her applications, or should everything be sent together?
Okay, Catherine, you don't send FAFSA forms to universities. You go on to the website, and do you have something to write with? I'm going to give it to you right now.
Yes, I do.
Okay, here's the website. It is F as in Frank, A as in Apple, F as in Frank, S as in sugar, A as in Apple, .org. Your mom and dad are going to have to help you with this because the FAFSA is going to take about an hour to complete, and you won't know most of the information on it. Your folks are going to have to use their 2018 tax returns to answer a lot of those. A lot of the questions are the same things they put on their tax returns. And then what happens is when you're done, you hit submit, and it uploads to the US government, to FAFSA. And then they determine of the universities you're applying to, what they feel that you can contribute to your education, and they report that to the universities you're applying to. And then it's up to the universities to determine how much need-based aid they can afford to give you.
Okay.
Okay, just
Thank
because,
you.
let's pretend that your FAFSA said that, oh, to attend Florida Tech, it means that the university needs to give you $50,000 in financial aid. I'm here to tell you, just because the government says that's what you would need, most universities are not going to give you that because they can't afford to. But they will give you what they can afford to give you, and then you're responsible for the rest, okay?
Okay.
And some people make too much money, you know, and they're not going to get anything because they don't have enough need. But one thing is, you know, when your parents fill that out, they've got to be totally honest, because the government can come back and check on that because they turned in tax returns. It's easy to check up on that. So, so you don't turn it into the university, the government does. As far as when you're going to apply, you can do the application, send in your CSEC results. Maybe if you finished Unit 1 of CAPE, wherever you are in your education. Because you're a US citizen, we can't make an admission decision until we get your SAT or ACT scores anyway. So they're going to hold everything until December anyway. So you do what's comfortable for you as far as when you want to apply.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Can I bring up something, Samuel, that we haven't talked about that I think is really important?
Absolutely, please do.
That's coronavirus and what it's done to the airline industry.
Okay.
I think, and Lawrence, I think maybe you being the eldest and most senior aviation person on this phone call, you know, until the coronavirus, there was a really serious pilot shortage around the world, and you were guaranteed a job. In addition to pilot shortage, almost every job in the airline industry, particularly if you were over in Asia, there was a shortage. Then all of a sudden the coronavirus hit and airports shut down, flights stopped. There are so many out of work pilots right now that I know this is y'all's passion, and I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer, I promise. But I think it's really important that you keep that in mind as you're about to take on debt to study. Absolutely, get your degree, get your pilot's licenses, pursue your passion. But because of the coronavirus and what it's done to the airline industry, and there's so many out of work pilots right now because a lot of flights still aren't flying, maybe take your time and save some money by doing more of your studies in Jamaica. Not necessarily, like Lawrence said, your flight studies, but maybe your academic studies, save some money. You've now got a little bit of time. So just food for thought. The aviation industry has just really taken a hit with the coronavirus. Lawrence, what do you have to say?
Yeah, I'll chime in. I'll give another side to that story. I went to FIT in 2009, which, I mean, we all know about the financial crisis in 2008. I think the situation back then was very similar. I mean, I think the coronavirus has had a much larger impact on the industry. But what I would say is it's kind of like investing in a stock market. You know, you really want to buy on bad news and sell on good news. And what I've found is, you know, if we look back at the historically at the industry, it's a 10-year cycle. You know, you can choose to slow down now, and then when things are looking good, try to get your trading in and get your certificates and get your flight time.
Yeah.
Or you can look at the situation and go, hey, things are bad right now. We have a lot of guys who are 60 who are going to retire at 65. I don't see it ever going back to pre-COVID levels where, you know, you walk up to an express jet or an Endeavor or whatever. I mean, we had students. I had a lot of students at FIT who were sophomores, already had airline jobs. I mean, the requirements for, you know, like Stacey was saying, the requirements for jobs were way down. It was very easy to get a job. But I also had a lot of friends in 2008 that looked at the industry and said, hey, there's no future in this industry. And they kind of slacked until later in that 10-year cycle, 6-7 years in, and said, okay, now I'm ready to go. And then things got good. And then there you go. They were late. You know, they joined the party late. Now they're getting furloughed. So what I would say is right now it doesn't look good for the future. Because like Stacey said, there's hundreds of pilots. I mean, we had a lot of regional airlines go to business. You have companies like Delta saying they're 2,000-3,000 pilots overstaffed. You have United saying they're 2,000 pilots overstaffed. You can simply say there's 10,000 pilots on the street who are highly qualified who don't have jobs. I agree. Yes, that's true. But there's also an opportunity here where you could get your studies done. I would say do a lot of research. I did my undergrad, I did my master's, I worked at FIT for 7 years. I am FIT true and true, but do the research, figure out how you can get qualified, get yourself qualified, get your certificates. That way, when things do turn good, that you're ready. You know, you have the qualifications, you have that minimum 1,000 or 1,500 hours to get your ATP. Because if it's one thing we do know about aviation, it does turn ugly, but it gets good again. It always gets good. And every time it gets good, everyone falls foul and thinks there'll never be a better time. I mean, when I just joined Spirit Airlines 6 months ago, or a year ago, and I would be flying with captains and they'd be like, oh, never a better time. You guys are so lucky. Never a better time. It's because we're all short. You know, there's just short memory. You had 2001, and then you had 2008, and now we have 2020. It's a 10-year cycle. So I would say, no, you're at the beginning of the cycle. It's perfect. You have no flight time. Get the flight time, get the certificates.
Yeah.
But always have a backup. You know, always have a college degree or, you know, a vocational skill. It doesn't have to be a degree, but have some skill. And even when you're a pilot, I mean, get in, you know, think of a business idea. Think of something else that's another source of income. So if you do fail your medical, you do get furloughed, there's that other source of income that can kind of keep you alive until things get good again.
All right, and then let's look at the flip side of that coin. The entire world has been quarantined. No one's traveling. They haven't seen their friends. They haven't seen their family that don't live in their same town. When this does end, I have a feeling that the airlines will bounce back faster than they did after the recession, because in the recession, people at least saw their loved ones and they at least got out of their house.
That's true.
They haven't been out of their house in 8 months. They haven't seen their grandchildren. They haven't seen their brothers and sisters. They haven't seen their best friends. They haven't seen their aunts and uncles in 8 months. And we're not done. So I do have a feeling that when this does end, people are going to be traveling sooner than they did after the Great Recession. I could be wrong. I don't have a crystal ball, but I do know that people have been starved of their loved ones, and when they can travel, they will. That's my thought.
And just to chime in on that, you know, I can only speak to what I see here at Spirit. You know, we were done. I'd say back in March or April, I was flying A321s that have 230 seats with 6 passengers on board. I'm actually on a trip right now, and company-wide our load factor is at 85%, which means 85% of the available seats are sold and filled. So I mean, that just shows you. I mean, we're a low cost carrier, so the ticket prices are cheaper. But like Stacey said, people are ready to travel. I think as soon as we have a vaccine, airlines are not going to be as big as they were before, and you
If
do
not
have a
bigger.
lot.
If not bigger.
You're right. You know, I mean, it's going to be slow to recover, especially with international travel, with different regions having different rules and different expectations of people entering the country. But you know, I can't see it taking much more than 2 to 3 years.
I
If you
can't
think
either.
about it, your FIT degree is going to take you 2 to 3 years. I mean, it's going to take you 4 years, but your
Gonna take
flight
you
training will
four.
probably take FIT. You know, your FIT is going to take you 4 years, but flight training could take you 2 to 3. Another 18 months as a flight instructor, and you could be hitting the wave at the right time. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. So it's all about
and
positioning yourself at
Yeah.
that point.
correct.
Yeah.
I would say positioning is key, and I think it's a good time to position yourself. I mean, I had
I
friends.
agree.
I went 2009. I had friends that hit the wave, you know, that 2013, 2014 wave, and I had friends, you know, I have students at Delta, United, American who just hit it at the right time. You know, like a lot of guys on this call, I didn't have a green card, so I didn't get a chance to take full advantage of that. But I mean, I still got into Spirit early enough where you know I have a job at a major airline. But if you can get yourself positioned for the next wave, that's really what it is. It's not no, you can't look no. I mean, if I was looking at the industry in 2008, it was done. You know, we were in some serious trouble as an airline industry, and things turn around. So I'd say position yourself. That's important.
And in the Western Hemisphere, the population's still aging. Don't forget, all of those pilots that are 55 to 65 are going to be retiring and not passing the health physical. When the industry rebounds, all of those vacancies are going to be there. And if I can give a little bit of personal, I am flying in 2 weeks to visit my daughter. The ticket prices are already higher than they were even a month ago. I was shocked at how high my ticket price is. I'm using points because the dollar amount was too high. So, and I'm one who saves my points to use for big trips like Europe or something. And already the ticket prices with the major carriers are going up. I think Spirit, Allegiant isn't even flying nearly as many flights, but I don't know. I was surprised at my ticket price compared to when I was pricing them 2 months ago.
Yep, that's true. Across the industry, ticket prices are going up. So
Because
I
more
think
people are flying.
it's in anticipation of people flying, and you guys can keep track of it. I mean, you can look at the TSA throughput, and I mean, we're approaching 1 million. You know, we got all the way down to 300,000-400,000, but we're approaching 1 million through TSA per day. So you can almost keep track of it and see the industry kind of recovering.
And I think there's only 3 airlines in the United States right now. Correct me if I'm wrong, Lawrence. Delta, JetBlue, and Southwest. I think those are the only 3 airlines left in the US that are still leaving that middle seat open. The other airlines, they're selling the seats they can sell and filling the planes as much as they can. Is that true?
Yeah, American
Yep.
is one of them. Yeah, that is
Yeah.
flying full capacity.
Yep.
Yep, that's correct. That is correct.
And just to chime in on the topic, I believe it was IATA that published results from a research that was done to say that, you know, persons are not getting the coronavirus from just traveling.
No.
You know, so it's a very small amount of people, and this was even before the protective measures were put in for persons traveling that caught the coronavirus while traveling. You know, it's before the protective measures were implemented.
Yeah.
So, you know, with that information being put out there now, people are going to be more comfortable to go ahead and travel, you know, to wherever they need to go.
Well, and I don't know, the airplanes are so clean right now. And okay, let's face it, they always haven't been. I can't imagine that as people are flying in these spectacularly clean airplanes that the airline industry is going to be able to go back. I think they're going to continue to stay clean. People that are flying are all commenting on how just spotlessly clean the airplanes are. And I think that will continue too, which will make flying a little more pleasant.
Yeah.
As a coach passenger.
All right, so we're doing good so far. I think I have one more question before we can wrap it up, and this question may be for Lawrence. The person's name is Sam. I had completed my PPL up to my commercial on an M1 visa. Can I do the CFI program and with the opportunity to work with the academy with a chance of getting an F1 visa? Also, if so, what's the cost? Hopefully, understand.
Yeah, I think I do. So I think the question is, you've done FA to commercial, and you want to do you want to do your CFI training with a school, FIT or otherwise, with the opportunity of getting hired there. There's that one depends. If you're a U.S. citizen or a green card holder, then the answer would be yes. If you're not, and which by the sounds of getting a visa, it's difficult, almost impossible. I think when I came on the call, I think Stacey was explaining CPT, OPT. To get hired, I can speak only for FIT. To get hired as a flight instructor after doing your CFI at FIT, you're going to need to have work authorization. Work authorization is gained either through that CPT. I think you have to have a year of undergrad studies. Is that correct, Stacey? Is it a year
I believe
before you
so.
can?
I believe
I
so.
think, yeah, it is. So you have to at least complete 1 year of your undergrad studies towards your degree before you can do CPT.
Oh, that is
which
for sure. That's for sure. I do know that for a
um,
fact.
right. So that's all orchestrated with your campus advisor, and you get to work. And there's a time limit. You can only work 20 hours on campus, or you can only work 20 hours on the flight line.
Mhm.
Or if you've completed your degree at FIT, you have the opportunity to do OPT, and you could work for a year, or if it's STEM, you get 3 years. So for someone who's already completed private to commercial elsewhere, it comes to FIT, we can do that with an M1 visa. You'll have a year to complete your CFI training. You could probably do CFI and AA. But FIT, though you're qualified for the job, you're not going to have work authorization. So FIT and most other schools are going to have a really hard time enrolling you or getting your work authorization to hire you. Now, I have heard of a few very rare situations. I can think of one school in Fort Pierce that's enrolling people in a professional flight training degree, and they're getting their double I's and their MEIs and their ATPs through this thing, and somehow the US government's allowing it. That's a little bit more on the fishy side, not something FIT would be involved in. So they're very, very rare situations where you could do your CFI somewhere and get hired, but I'd almost say it's a 1% chance. It's for it to even get a
Lawrence,
go.
with that school that you're talking about down in Fort Pierce, we've had 3 students this fall transfer from there to us because they were uncomfortable and not pleased with what was going on down there.
Yeah, I think we had one person who their H-1B visa wasn't approved. They ended up going there. We were shocked that they were able to be down there instructing. It doesn't pass the sniff test.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
So I mean, and there's a lot to be said. It's your life. If someone's being fishy with immigration, they're probably being fishy with maintenance. So that's something to think about. But the quick answer to your question is, yes, you can get your CFI at FIT with an M1 visa, but I don't think we're going to be able to hire you, not with the way the immigration laws are set up just, right now. Now, you could apply for an H-1B visa if you had a 4-year degree and met all the other requirements for H-1B visa, but that's also a lottery system. So, to answer that question, it's probably difficult, almost impossible.
Yeah. Okay.
And Stacey, do you know if FIT is actually, with cuts, are we actually sponsoring H-1B visas currently?
I don't know the answer to that. That just doesn't come through my office, Lawrence. I'm sorry. Jackie Lingner in the ISSS office would know.
Yeah, I think the last I heard that was on, hold. And that was within the last 6 months. So if we're not sponsoring H-1B visas, which for some things we don't use a lottery because we're a not-for-profit organization, so we actually get to skip the lottery in most situations. It depends on what you're doing. I think flight instruction actually does skip the lottery. So if you can convince someone at FIT to sponsor you, which is usually not the case. Usually someone's worked there on OPT, CPT, and they've shown themselves to be a good worker. For example, someone like Chad, if Chad needed H-1B, if he does a year and a half, shows to be a good worker, then FIT can consider an H-1B visa. But coming in off the street doing a CFI, it's probably going to be difficult.
Right. Yeah. OPT, CPT is the way to go at U.S. universities to break into the workforce in the U.S. And let's face it, having a U.S. college degree and then U.S. work experience, those that don't stay in the U.S. to work and they go back to their home countries, they're at the top of the hiring pool in their home countries if they do that. So either way, it's a win-win.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you guys. Thank you, Lawrence. Thank you, Stacy. I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, we covered all questions. I mean, Lawrence chimed in and provided some good insights as well. So guys, if you have no other questions, I'd like to just go ahead and use the opportunity to thank Stacy again. I know you had a full day and still made the effort to be with us this evening. Also thanks to Chad and Greg and Kiman and all those persons who are actually in Melbourne now, chiming in, especially Lawrence, who I'm not sure if he's on the crew bus home or whatnot, but flew into LAX and decided to chime in as soon as he got off the airplane. So, thank you to everyone for the presentation. Stacy, thank you for answering the many questions and, just for being here with us today. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, and thanks to everybody spending their Saturday night with us. Thank you for your interest in Florida Tech. Lawrence, Kimon, Greg, and Chad, I cannot thank you enough. Lunch is on me, guys, okay?
I'm sorry I'm not there to take part.
Well, Samuel, when we're together, I take you to dinner, so.
But then when, I don't know when that will be, I look forward to that at least once per year.
But you know that when next we're together, I get to take you to dinner, so.
Sure, sounds good. Well, guys, I hope for those who are here, you remember Stacy's information is here on the screen. Feel free to send her an email or give a call and ask for Mrs. Stacy Reeder. We have been working with her for many years, 10 years plus. And, Kimon and those guys are there as well. Chad, Spencer, and Greg, and also Lawrence. I didn't know Lawrence was still there, but these persons are good to have in your network to speak to get some information on, and just to have in your circle throughout your university time and also even as professionals, right? So, keep these names in your books and get in touch with them.
Networking is huge. Networking is huge.
It is. Absolutely. All right, well, guys, thank you again. That is pretty much it for the evening. Please do continue staying safe throughout the pandemic. We're not over it yet. Stacy, what is your email address? Is it sreader@fit.edu?
Yes, it has not changed. Yep, it's the same. sreader@fit.edu. But even if you did the admission at fit.edu, you're in the Jamaica Flight Club, you're being sent to me anyway. So
yes, our very own contact person at FIT to look after our people. We love it. And thank you to
I love
Stacy.
it too. Here we all sit for more than 2 hours on a Saturday night. We all love each other, obviously, right?
All right, guys. Well, until next time, thank you again for all being here. The session today will be posted, I believe, on YouTube. I'm going to post it on YouTube tonight for those who just want to watch the video back to catch up on something. So it will be posted on YouTube tonight, and the link will be shared with everyone. All right. So thank you again, guys.
All right. Good night, everybody. Thank you so much. Samuel, thank you for hosting.
Sure. Thank you too, Stacy. Take
All
care.
right.
Stay safe.
Everybody else too. Yeah, do the CDC thing. Don't get careless.